My name is Stan Schumacher. I'm the Deputy Speaker and member for the Drumheller constituency. After question period today, the House will proceed to second reading debate of various government bills. There are currently 15 bills at this stage. The House will reconvene at 8 o'clock this evening for third reading of Bill 41, an Appropriation Act, the Alberta Heritage and Savings and Trust Fund, Capital Projects Division, which will be followed by Committee of the Whole for the study of bills which have received second reading. Let us pray. O Lord, we give thanks for the bounty of our province, our land, our resources, and our people. We pledge ourselves to act as good stewards on behalf of all Albertans. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Glenmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill 45, being the Professional Statutes Amendment Act 1990. This bill encompasses the Nursing Professional Act, the Occupational Therapist Act, the Physical Therapist Act, and the Pharmaceutical Act. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Glenmore has moved first reading of Bill number 45, the Professional Statutes Amendment Act 1990. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 45, Professional Statutes Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the Honourable Member Mrs. Myrosh, is now read a first time.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Mill-Woods.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my colleague, the member for Edmonton Strathcona, I request leave to introduce Bill 270, an act to amend the Judicature Act. Mr. Speaker, this act would give boards the power of waiving formalities and extending time limits if they are of the opinion that justice will be better served thereby, and it also provides that the fact of an issue being before a board does not preclude other remedies of law pending a board's determination of a matter.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Mill-Woods has moved first reading of Bill number 270. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 270, an act to amend the Judicature Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Gibault, is now read a first time.
Honourable Member for Calgary McCall.
I wish leave to introduce a bill being Alcohol and Drug Abuse Amendment Act 1990. Mr. Speaker, this bill will identify ADAC as a Crown agency and also change the designation of the agency head.
The Honourable Member for Calgary McCall has moved first reading of Bill number 47, the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Amendment Act 1990. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 47, Alcohol and Drug Abuse Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Nelson, is now read a first time.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Bill number 45, Professional Statutes Amendment Act 1990, and Bill number 47, the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Amendment Act 1990, be placed on the order paper under Government Bills and Orders.
Having heard the motion of the Honourable Government House Leader, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Tabling returns and reports.
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Here I'm pleased to table with the Assembly the annual report of the Alberta Health Facilities Review Committee for the year ended December 31, 1989, as well the annual report of the Alberta Cancer Board for the fiscal year ended March 31, 89. Copies will be distributed to all members. Additionally, I'm tabling responses to motion for return 238 and questions 258 and 259.
The Honourable the Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the instructions of the Speaker on Friday, I'm tabling the public consultation program documentation which formed part of the environmental impact assessment program for the Daishoa pulp mill.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Redwater Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce the 1988-89 annual report of the Alberta Multicultural Commission of the House.
Introduction of special guests.
The Honourable Member for Bow Valley.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure today to introduce to you and to the Assembly 11 students from the Duchess School. They are sitting in the members gallery and they're accompanied by their teacher Laura Goldberg and parent Yvonne Leland. I would now ask them to stand and receive the warm welcome for the Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Innisfail.
Mr. Speaker, it's my great pleasure today to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly 32 students from Spruceview School, accompanied with their teachers Marguerite Baker, Glenn Elwin, and parents Debbie Hare, Brenda Nugent, Donna Storberger, and Phyllis Reardon. I would like them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Vegreville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly today 56 students from the Peters of Art School in Vegreville. They're seated in the public gallery accompanied by their teachers, Mrs. Lillian Homanyuk, Mr. Raymond Sharuk, and Mr. Randy Foots. And I'd like those students and their teachers to stand up so they can receive the warm welcome of members of the Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce two residents of Grand Prairie who are in Edmonton today pursuing their concern and interest in restoring clean water in the Wapiti River. They are also friends of mine. I'd like to introduce Norm and Jenny Ng. They're in the public gallery. Would you please rise and receive the welcome of the Assembly?
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce 16 students from the AVC School at Winifred Stewart campus in my riding. They're in the members gallery, and so I can't see them, but they are accompanied by their teacher, Peter Edmonston, and I would like them to rise and for all members to give them a warm welcome.
The Honourable the Solicitor General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the members of the House two special guests from the city of St. Albert, Mrs. Joyce Welch and Mrs. Joanne Pierce, who have with them a special guest from Christchurch, New Zealand, who is in St. Albert visiting her relatives. I would ask them to rise in the members' gallery and accept the acknowledgement of the House.
Ministerial statements.
The Honourable the Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As part of the ongoing process to achieve the protection, improvement, and wise use of our environment, the Alberta government has established a water management policy to guide the management of the water resources of the South Saskatchewan River Basin. Recognizing the many and sometimes conflicting water needs in southern Alberta, the policy is designed to protect both the in-stream flow needs, including water quality, fisheries, and recreation requirements, and the consumptive water uses, including municipal, domestic, and agricultural water supplies. The new policy includes irrigation expansion guidelines. Irrigation expansion in southern Alberta, Mr. Speaker, is supported by this government. However, guidelines to limit irrigation expansion have been established since the desire for water to support irrigation exceeds available supplies. Work is continuing on determining in-stream flow through a process developed jointly by Alberta Environment and the Alberta Water Resources Commission. The new policy also recognizes the need to meet the province's interprovincial apportionment commitments, to encourage water conservation, and to consult the public on water management within Alberta. The South Saskatchewan River Basin Water Management Policy is based on an extensive river basin planning program, public hearings, and recommendations of the Alberta Water Resources Commission, started back in 1983, Mr. Speaker, by the late Henry Kruger. Officials of Alberta Environment, Alberta Agriculture, and the Alberta Water Resources Commission will meet with the agricultural industry to discuss the irrigation expansion guidelines and other aspects of the policy in detail. The Water Resources Act, which governs water management in Alberta, will be reviewed and amended to allow full implementation of the South Saskatchewan River Basin Water Management Policy and irrigation expansion guidelines. In the interim, the new policies and the existing provisions of the Water Resources Act will ensure wise use of our water resources. By supporting multi-use of water in the South Saskatchewan River Basin and giving consideration to water conservation initiatives, the water management policy will ensure that Alberta's rivers are sustained for future generations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable, the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In replying to the ministerial statement, Mr. Speaker, in terms of what it says, I don't have a great deal of problems with it, although I would like it to go a little further, Mr. Speaker. I would note, and I'm sure the Minister would agree, it's not the first study that's been done on the South Saskatchewan Basin, and we've had studies done in southern Alberta before. I would remind the Minister, Mr. Speaker, that the in-stream flow needs process, a study done in the Highwood, suggested a certain level that should be proceeding through, Mr. Speaker, and I noticed that the Minister's promise the other day was much less than that. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would hope, though, that in terms of a study like this in the South Saskatchewan Basin, that not only water management, I hope that, in fact, we're looking at water quality, because I think that's a very important aspect of the study. I would also hope, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the irrigation system in southern Alberta, that we'd take a look at the efficiency of the present system before we get into expansion, because I expect that there is a fair amount of water wasted and we can't afford that in southern Alberta. So I take it that that would be part of this particular study. Mr. Speaker, I notice that there's public consultation, and that's nice, Mr. Speaker. I hope the public consultation is a little better than we did with Diashawa just recently, Mr. Speaker. But in saying that, hope springs eternal, Mr. Speaker. We'll wait and see how this proceeds.
Oral question period.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, back to the Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, there have been so many bad decisions on the environmental front in the province in the last few months, it's easy to lose track of all of them, Mr. Speaker. Some weeks ago, however, this government decided to try to undermine the review conducted by the LPAC Review Board. Mr. Speaker, it searched the world over and ended up hiring Jakopori, a Finnish firm of consultants, to review the review for $400,000 of taxpayers' money. Mr. Speaker, soon after we pointed out that Jakopori had already recommended a Bleachcraft pulp mill for Athabasca in a study for this government in 1983. Now, Mr. Speaker, since then more information has come to light regarding the activities of Jaakko Pori that seriously calls into question the company's credibility on environmental matters. My question to the minister, Mr. Speaker, is this. Can the minister explain why his government would hire a consultant whose Brazilian subsidiary is involved in Bleachcraft pulp projects that use trees from the Amazon rainforest?
Well, as I understand it, Mr. Speaker, there are many components to Jaakko Pori's operations, and one is purely an environmental protection component, and this company was deemed to have some of the best expertise available as it relates to chlorinated organics. They are not now involved with any companies in Alberta, and therefore were deemed to be quite independent in terms of their ability to perform this review. The whole question here, Mr. Speaker, is the question as it relates to dioxin and furan. And I think that that in light of the examination given to all those who were invited to participate in this process, Jaakko Pori, notwithstanding their involvement with the pulp industry, is still in the best position to assess this very, very important question of chlorinated organics.
Mr. Speaker, to the minister, this company is involved in pulp projects that uses trees from one of the most, if not the most, magnificent and ecologically important rainforests in the world. Mr. Speaker, the destruction of that rainforest and efforts to save it have mobilized the public and environmentalists around the world. And Mr. Speaker, the Coalition for Environment and Development in Helsinki said that Jaakko Pori, listen to this, Jaakko Pori has quite a bad reputation among the environmental groups in Finland, Mr. Speaker. My question to the minister flowing from this, how can this government ask us to believe that Jaakko Pori hasn't been hired to do a hatchet job on the Alprak report when it's got a reputation like that?
Well, Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of assumptions here, and I've talked to people in environmental circles, and they seem to think that Jaakko Pori is indeed a very, very good firm with tremendous capabilities and certainly the expertise to conduct this kind of research. With respect to the Brazilian rainforest, Mr. Speaker, I think that all of us throughout the world can look at the destruction that has occurred there and reflect very, very sadly on the kinds of things that have occurred. But this is quite common with respect to the environment world over. If we could go back and correct all the mistakes that were made in the past, then we wouldn't be dealing with the very complex and very difficult issues that we're dealing with today.
Speaker, the point is that they're involved in this right now. This is 1988, and they're moving in right now into the 1990.
A supplemental, please.
My question then to the minister, Mr. Speaker, is this, that this company has been criticized, I don't know which environmentalist he's been talking to, has been criticized for their environmental destruction all over the world, Mr. Speaker, and especially in the third world, Mr. Speaker. I have a list of it here. And my question to the minister flowing from that, isn't it the truth? Isn't it the truth that the reason that Jaakko Pori was chosen to do this unnecessary review in the first place was because its reputation was a pretty good guarantee that the original report would be trashed?
Mr. Speaker, I really think it's unfortunate that the honourable leader of the opposition is trying to create or to imply that this firm was hired to do a hatchet job. Indeed, this firm was selected from 7 highly respected firms from around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And not in talking to a specific environmentalist, but certainly in reading the comments of a well-respected environmentalist, someone who has been quoted in this Legislative Assembly from time to time. I refer to Dr. David Schindler, who was a participant on the LPAC review panel. And if I can quote from a newspaper clipping, Mr. Speaker, it says, David Schindler, an ecologist who sat on the review panel looking into the Alberta Pacific Forest Industries proposal, was interviewed for several hours by officials from Yakapuri. I think, and I'm quoting Dr. Schindler here, again, I'm quoting from the newspaper as they quoted him, Mr. Speaker, I think they are the type of people who will be honest and try to do a good job. I think that's a good reflection, Mr. Speaker, of this company. Thank you.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Environmentalists around the world, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
I'd like to designate my second question to the member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in answer to questions I asked last Friday, the Solicitor General admitted that all hotels in Alberta would have the opportunity to sell all liquor products over the counter. He further said that these private liquor stores will have to pay Alberta Liquor Control Board retail prices for their stock. Mr. Speaker, this means that Albertans living in rural communities where there are no ALCB outlets will have to pay the ALCB prices plus the hotel's markup. Now, or suffer some inconvenience. This is clearly discriminatory, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Solicitor General is this: in the interest of fairness, Mr. Speaker, will the Minister now consider an ALCB agency approach in which all reputable businesses could apply for licenses to sell liquor in those areas where there are no ALCB outlets, but only on the same conditions, such as prices and hours, as ALCB stores sell?
Good idea.
Mr. Speaker, there are a whole series of questions and more innuendos in the question than I could take time to answer for the duration of the question period. The ALCB, together with my office, studied carefully the best way of handling off-sale liquors. We felt very strongly that those organizations, mainly the hoteliers who have sold liquor for generations in this province, are in the best position to ensure that liquor sales continued on a basis which was most professional. And rather than putting it into the corner grocers and into the pharmacies, and as other provinces have done around us, where we perceive great difficulty in the control of sales, we have gone the route that we have gone. In respect to the pricing, it is true that the sale of liquor through the beer stores or through the hotels will in fact be higher. And the consuming public will have to make up their own mind, and the marketplace will have to determine whether in fact they want to pay that price or drive to the nearer liquor store, which may be 20 miles or 32 kilometers away, in order to make the price more equitable.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I just gave the Minister a better alternative. In any event, the problem of discriminatory pricing is only one of the problems caused by the Solicitor General's proposal. There will also be an extension of hours during which liquor can be purchased, with the result that patrons will be able to leave these hotels in the early hours of the morning with a bottle for the road tucked firmly under their arms. The Solicitor General, Mr. Speaker, what is the Minister's estimate of the extra policing costs that will be required to protect Albertans from this irresponsible expansion to liquor distribution in the province?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member must have a terribly low opinion of Albertans that are going to buy in these new outlets. He sees nothing but drunkards and people that are going to go in there and buy this and go out. I don't think this is going to happen at all, Mr. Speaker. And it is not determined that is going to happen. We will, however, be monitoring what is taking place here. But I'm absolutely convinced that by and large Albertans will continue their responsible drinking, their responsible purchasing of alcohol, and its responsible use, and that this will not make any trouble. Also, Mr. Speaker, this honourable member somehow or another, beyond my imagination, has determined what the hours have been. And I wish he would share those with the Minister and myself, because we haven't determined those at all at this particular point.
Supplemental question?
Negative attitude towards Albertans that the Minister says I have. And I'm prepared to admit that the first stage of his plan has some possible limited merit, Mr. Speaker. But the rest of his proposal allowing hotels in the cities, for example, to sell liquor makes it crystal clear that this is essentially a privatization plan, pure and simple. My question to the Solicitor General is this, Mr. Speaker. Will the Solicitor General now admit that what his government really wants is the establishment of private liquor stores, and if not, explain why his proposal allows hotels to sell all kinds of liquor in communities where there are already Alberta Liquor Control Board outlets?
Mr. Speaker, the feeling that this is going to cause a great deal more problem, I am convinced in my own mind, is absolutely incorrect. For at least 7 to 10 years now, all city hotels have been able to sell liquor to rooms in more recent, not beer, honorable member, all liquor in the rooms they have been able to sell. And I don't remember, other than the odd convention where I've seen people staggering out of hotel rooms on occasion merely because it was there, which you open with that little key that they give you when you check in. And I want to say further, Mr. Speaker, that notwithstanding, on May the 1st, 1990, when the honourable member indicated, and to quote from the answer to that day, we happen to live in a particularly intellectually backward part of the Western world, is not a view that I hold at all. And I believe that Albertans are, in fact, responsible people, and the new availability will not make them irresponsible.
The honourable member for Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the midst of our anxiety about Meech Lake, we shouldn't lose sight of a crisis in our province that can't be swept under the rug. Nothing affects families and is more devastating to them, Mr. Speaker, than poverty. Sadly, the growing statistics and research in Alberta all indicate that unless positive, comprehensive action is taken, the cycle of poverty for thousands of Alberta families is not only going to continue, but it's going to get worse. When we consider the number of innocent children that we allow to be caught as victims in this crisis, it's obvious that the spending priorities of our provincial government are distorted. We can, in fact, Mr. Speaker, make life better if we have the will. My questions, Mr. Speaker, are to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, the growing number of Alberta children living in poverty is a systemic and incipient illness. It needs rational and sensitive leadership to provide solutions. How does, then, the Premier justify spending $100 million on community facilities to improve tennis courts and ski chalets and so on when there are 93,600 Alberta children living in poverty, and where 70,000 children in our province are on social allowance having to use food banks? How do we justify it?
Mr. Speaker, it is true that throughout the world, in our free Western society, certainly, there is poverty, there is problems with drugs, there's problems with family breakup. These are problems throughout the world. We deal with them to the very best of our ability in a sensitive, caring way. We do it by trying to care for those who can't help themselves. We do it by providing opportunities for Albertans so that they can work and have good incomes and good homes. And Mr. Speaker, there are always going to be problems which we will try and deal with to the best of our ability.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we do have means at our hand, and we have communities that are prepared to help. Will the Premier please tell us how he feels about having $250,000 left in the lottery funds, while 23% of Alberta students miss at least one meal a day, and a single parent with one child earning minimum wage would need to work 68 hours a week just in order to achieve the poverty level? How does the Premier feel about that statistic?
Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't feel good about one child missing a meal. That's why, as I said, we work very hard at it.
Mr. Speaker, tragically, we do have the means at our hand. In November '89, the Child Poverty Action Group called on the provincial government to establish a task force on child poverty. I'd like to ask the Premier, has anything happened? Has anything been done to work with our communities who are prepared to go along and help and support this move?
More food. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Family and Social Services may want to augment my report. The honourable friend from Gold Bar has quoted statistics and certain reports and certain statements and certain requests. I'm not familiar whether, first of all, she's accurate. I know she's a good friend, but she's not always accurate. And, Mr. Speaker, I think if she sent it to me, I could give her a detailed response at another time.
To supplement, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier's good friend, the member for Gold Bar, I would just want to assure that this minister is working very closely with a number of advocacy groups across the province of Alberta, and that I appreciate their efforts and their cooperation, because we realize that poverty is a very difficult issue, and it's not an issue that we're going to be able to solve or address alone. And so I appreciate the efforts of Albertans, and I've appreciated working with them this past year, and I look forward to their continued input as we continue to make progress in this initiative. I would want to point out, Mr. Speaker, that here in Alberta, although obviously we're no different than any other province in that we recognize that there are people living below the poverty level, but I would also want to point out that in Alberta there are fewer people living below the poverty level than in most provinces, and we're considerably less than the national average. But again, Mr. Speaker, we're still not satisfied with that. We're still not happy about that, and I'm going to continue to work with my colleagues in Cabinet and in caucus and my colleagues across the way in this Assembly, because again, it is important for all of us to work together if we're going to resolve this issue.
For Highwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the past few weeks, this Assembly has heard a number of questions based on the shortage of water in the Highwood. Mr. Speaker, today my questions will be to the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services about too much water. Mr. Speaker, the foothills of southwestern Alberta have received a considerable amount of rainfall in the past week, causing many rivers to reach flood levels, particularly peaking on Friday and Saturday. Many people have been evacuated from their homes and from their farms. My question then to the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services is, what assistance in terms of manpower, materials and money is this department prepared to offer to the people along the Highwood and Sheep Rivers, keeping in mind, Mr. Speaker, that there now appears to be a danger of a second flood peak in the next day or two, as a second storm is now at this moment depositing an additional load of precipitation in that area.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member, today is about 180 degrees different from where he was on Friday. We talked about a shortage of water in the Highwood, and today talked about a surplus of water in the Highwood. The Highwood is only one of approximately 20 rivers and tributaries on the eastern slopes of the province of Alberta, going down from Edson down to the municipality of Crow's Nest Pass, Mr. Speaker, that have received a rather acute amount of rainfall in the last 96 hours. And there are two communities in particular that perhaps more hardly hit than others. One is Canmore, the other was Black Diamond, and there seems to be an emergency situation in both occurring right now. Alberta Public Safety Services has been in a position to provide assistance as per request from all municipalities in the eastern slopes going back to last Thursday, Mr. Speaker, and we've provided some 17,000 sandbags, and we've provided other equipment as required. In each community there is a disaster assistance plan. The local reeve or a mayor of each municipality is in charge of the program, and we're here to help as per all requests given to us.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, my supplementary question again is to the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services. After the flood, what assistance will he commit to give to people who have suffered property damage, and what assistance will be offered to communities like the MD of Foothills and the town of Black Diamond, where they've sustained damages to their facilities?
Mr. Speaker, with all matters that are related to disasters, what our focus of attention is the time of the disaster, and your first few days after the disaster is a mitigation with respect to the particular situation. And towards the end of this week, an assessment will be made with all the municipalities that have been affected. And if there is a bona fide case that can be made to the province for assistance, the province would respond. We've done that very aggressively under the leadership of Queen Rigetti since 1986, and some 10,000 citizens have been able to seek redress. But in all cases, Mr. Speaker, redress is not provided if situations occur where insurance is available and readily available.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last Friday, a senior official in the Department of Health at a conference in Calgary described plans to introduce smart cards or debit microchip cards and associated information linking systems which would contain certain medical and financial information on all Albertans registered with Alberta Healthcare Insurance Plan. But, Mr. Speaker, Albertans want to know who is going to have access to their personal health history. As well, Albertans do not want this information to be used by governments that want to ration health care services. So will the Minister of Health today at least call a halt to plans for this computer grab of personal health information until it can be assured that confidentiality will be protected and that the rationing of health services will not be the result?
Mr. Speaker, I too attended the conference that was referred to by the Honourable Member for Edmonton Centre. In fact, I spoke at the opening and the lead-off speech towards that conference. Certainly the issue of the suggestion in the Premier's Commission report with respect to the potential for smart cards is one that we are looking at, and one that I supplied a rather detailed response to the Honourable Member in a question that he raised in the order paper of this Assembly. But at no point did I or any member of my staff use the word rationing. That's a word that the Honourable Member for Edmonton Centre has coined. It's not one that I use in my lexicon. The one that I have talked about frequently is the issue of rationalization, which is a very different concept, if you care to look it up in the dictionary, than rationing.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I stayed for the whole of the conference on Friday, and there was a lot of talk about plans for information and computer grabs and smart cards and information linking, the kind of which I'm asking the Minister today. In fact, at a recent conference of Deputy Ministers of Health meeting in Manitoba, they hit a block of how to proceed on this issue of smart cards until confidentiality, that issue could be resolved. So will the Minister at least ensure that before smart cards are used in Alberta, that, for instance, say a privacy commissioner established under a Personal Privacy Act, as they have in other provinces, will be in place to ensure private health confidentiality and a healthy future for all Albertans?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member is great with the rhetoric, but not very great with what in fact has to happen in this province. Every single commission that has been undertaken in Alberta, certainly the ones that we've seen report over about the last year, has talked about the need for information linking, and appropriate use of that information within the existing legislation with regard to the Alberta Healthcare Insurance Plan, with regard to hospital records, all the pieces of legislation that refer to confidentiality of records, the protection of an individual's confidential position with respect to health, is one that has been upheld very strongly by this province. And in fact, the creation of the new Department of Health 18 months ago has increased the support for ensuring that information with respect to an individual's health is kept private and appropriately used. The issue of the smart card was one that was suggested most recently in the Premier's Commission, and the Honourable Member is the one that criticizes this Minister and this government for not responding quickly enough with respect to the recommendations of the Premier's Commission. It's because of issues like the smart card and ensuring that we protect Albertans' confidentiality that we are moving unapologetically with a proper amount of time to ensure that we do have an appropriate package for the protection of our health.
Makes sense to me? Yeah. The Honourable Member for Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Friday of last week, I asked some questions of the Provincial Treasurer regarding the objectives that he has in pursuing the $400,000, and the minister replied that he was concerned in protecting the interests of the contract holders and the taxpayer. Kratom International has set a deadline of June the 10th to finalize the purchase of the Cormy Ranch. Well, I would suggest, Mr. Speaker, that the provincial treasurer is being penny wise and pound foolish in jeopardizing a $1 billion project and a potential loss of a $6 million sale, pursuing a grand sum that represents 0.08% of the total amount lost in the principal collapse. My question is to the Premier today. The provincial treasurer is playing a very high-stakes game of bluff poker. Will the Premier now step in himself, take over from the provincial treasurer, set aside any pettiness, and ensure that this project can go ahead so we can all benefit both directly and indirectly from such a large project?
No, Mr. Speaker, and there's certainly not any pettiness involved.
I don't call dirty Dick for nothing.
Well, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier once again, I have to wonder if the government has any better offer than that one which was before us now that guarantees $5.5 million to be set in trust and a possible $1 billion for the investment for the province. If not, my question to the Premier is this: why is the government creating roadblocks preventing this project from going ahead?
Mr. Speaker, as I explained to Albertans and to this House last Friday, the process is not in the hands of the government. This process is in the hands of those people who own the property or in the courts or both. The province has done nothing to block the sale. In fact, you've heard already that the province has accommodated the sale by encouraging the foreign ownership of land regulation to proceed, to providing all kinds of support to a variety of ministers to the foreign investors, and that, Mr. Speaker, has already been done. But there is also, as I pointed out before, a balance of interest. That interest is to protect those people, the contract holders, and the province now has a responsibility there, having paid about $85 million to secure a position and to protect the position, and the taxpayers, Mr. Speaker, who have paid approximately $25+ million and expect to pay a lot more in the future on the principal fare itself, Mr. Speaker. Now, what has happened is that the contract holders, with the support of the government, and in one case the government, has made an application to turn the process over to the court. That is to say, Mr. Speaker, that in the case of Mr. Cormy, he has signed a consent agreement that he's agreed to transfer the proceeds into the hands of the court. Mrs. Cormy has, we received an injunction against Mrs. Cormy, again, to transfer the proceeds into the hands of the court. Now, as I pointed out before, Mr. Speaker, there's a long line of claims against those assets. Not just the province, but other governments as well have claims against those assets. They have to be sorted out at some point, and we have to secure that asset for the future settlement of that account. Now, Mr. Speaker, this property still is in the hands of the owners of the property, because the court has not given anyone a better claim against that property as a result of the court process. So the owners themselves are the one who can judge whether or not they're going to sell it. And if it is sold, then the court itself will judge whether or not those proceeds are allocated. So it's not up to the government now, Mr. Speaker. All we have done is protected all interests and left it to the court to arbitrate the process.
Calgary Glenmore, followed by Edmonton Jasper Place.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many of my constituents and others have indicated that when entering into a contractual purchase agreement, when buying a house or a car, the documents they have to sign have been most comprehensive. And many of these contractual agreements have been particularly troublesome to consumers, and especially in residential tenancy leases and car rental contracts. And consumers are unaware of this long legal and baffle-gab contained in these contracts, and they want to know, more importantly, what these documents are saying, and even the salesmen are unaware of actually what they're saying. Can the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs indicate whether he is planning to take further steps to ensure that consumers can understand the contracts that they sign for the purchase of goods and services?
Mr. Speaker, Bill 19, the Financial Consumer Act, would speak to the honourable member's concerns with respect to plain language contracts for those services that individual citizens would purchase regarding the financial contracts. There are, of course, good reasons for some of the legal wording and some of the technicalities that exist in contracts regarding the purchases we make. However, I would share the concern expressed that in most cases, we should be able to, capable of, and willing to sign contracts only when we understand them.
in that regard, we're reviewing a number of the areas that my department's responsible for to see if we can't encourage or in other ways require contracts to be written in plain English or more understandable terminology.
Mr. Speaker, in order to develop a standard plain language form, how is the Minister planning and his department, when reviewing these documents, planning on involving the consumer and the stakeholders?
Mr. Speaker, with respect to one standard form, I don't know that that would be practical for all of the kind of purchases that we as individuals make. Each has its own specific problem, its own specific circumstances that have to be detailed. However, we are now, with the Financial Consumer Act, going to ask that those contracts be written in understandable English and that they contain certain provisions. I have asked the Real Estate Association to work with our Superintendent of Real Estate to have a plain English offer to purchase form prepared, and we will look then further at other documents. And we have established nationally a task force from Consumer and Corporate Affairs Ministers meetings, which Alberta is heading, that will try and develop some standards for plain English contracts and understandable language through those purchases that we make. It's not an easy process nor a simple one, but I believe that the point made by the honourable member is a good one. In this very complex, very fast-moving market that we have, it is important that consumers understand what they sign.
The honourable member for Edmund Jasper Place.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of the Environment began last week by stating that he gave Daishawa their operating permit on the advice of the Attorney General, saying the province had no option. It could be sued. It could lose the lawsuits from Daishawa. Later in the week, we had the second story, which was actually there was a public input process, and he waved these documents in the air and said there were over 25 meetings. Now, I understand the document he tabled today is in fact Daishawa's environmental assessment report from way back in 1987, and that the meetings that he spoke to were meetings between Daishawa and Alberta Environment, private meetings between Daishawa and municipal officials and community officials and local authority boards, 5 and only 5 public meetings held by Daishawa, PR meetings, in November of 1987. Now, will the minister perhaps confirm that all these meetings were sponsored by Daishawa, that they all took place prior to the project application, that there was no public or independent review of the project application, in any case not one of them related to the operating license?
Mr. Speaker, with respect to what the Attorney General is alleged to have said or not to have said, well, as far as I'm concerned, the honourable member is out to lunch. Thank you from my colleague. But Mr. Speaker, the public consultation document that was filed today is all part of the environmental impact assessment process that was required of the company at that particular time. And I would like to reiterate today, Mr. Speaker, that Daishawa did everything that was required of the company relative to public involvement, relative to the preparation of documents, relative to the submission of those documents to the department for a deficiency review, and taking into account the public comments, relative to submitting our comments to the federal government for their deficiency review, and relative to the federal government under the terms of the old contract signing off on that particular project. I would like to reiterate, Mr. Speaker, that Daishawa went the extra step and refitted that mill midway through to add to the operation the best available in environmental technology. And indeed, they have played by all the rules. They played by all the rules that were in existence at that time, Mr. Speaker, and there was no reason under the circumstances not to issue them a permit to operate.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in other words, they were 1987 meetings and they had nothing to do with the operating license. I wonder, perhaps we could go to the Attorney General, back to the first story. I've learned from the Attorney General's department and officials very close to the Minister that the legal opinion referred to relative to this matter was rendered by Milner and Steer, and I wonder if the Attorney General would confirm that that's the same law firm that represents the government of Alberta in the current Daishawa court case. They're trying to prevent a federal environmental assessment. They're taking that position on behalf of the province, and they're advising them an operating license.
Order, please. I think what the honourable member could be asking for is a possible legal opinion, and of course the Attorney General can't give that, but if the Attorney General has something to provide that isn't of the nature of a legal opinion, I'll recognize it.
Mr. Speaker, I'm at liberty not to answer what was starting out to be an opinion, but in respect of who represents, we have a broad spectrum of private sector lawyers that we use from time to time, and Milner and Steer are definitely one of them.
The honourable member for Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A couple of weeks ago, the Minister for Advanced Education tried to pass off criticism, public and otherwise, of his bill, the power grab with the post-secondary education institutions, by saying, would it make you feel better if you knew that he consulted with the institutions? 29 of them, I assume he's going to tell us. Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that the institutions that are affected by this power grab don't like the bill. So the minister's insinuation that his consultation was effective would be somewhat misleading. My question to the minister is this. Prior to the bill getting to second reading, will the minister announce his intentions to amend the bill to strike out the offending parts, that is the power grab parts, that apply to every post-secondary institution in the province?
Mr. Speaker, we have a very successful post-secondary system of education in Alberta with some 29 institutions, so as to not disappoint the honourable member. Mr. Speaker, the intent of Bill 27 is simply to improve the very successful programs we already have.
Mr. Speaker, funny thing, you know, all these years those universities and colleges survived with ministerial powers being limited to preventing unnecessary or undesirable duplication of services, and he didn't have the power to say when they can or cannot eliminate or transfer programs. Mr. Speaker, this bill is causing a lot of controversy amongst the community affected by it, and my question to the minister is this. My question to the minister is this. Seeing as how he won't agree to amending it right now, will he agree to not calling the bill over the summer, to let the institutions contact him and try to actually negotiate something that makes sense?
Mr. Speaker, I'm very disappointed in the honourable member from Highlands' question. The proposal, with respect, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is referring to Bill 27. That section is applicable to all institutions. There's some 29 very successful institutions, and I find it somewhat ironic. Mr. Speaker. I have heard from 3 of the 29 institutions in a way that they're not happy with it. I would simply invite all honourable members to be present in the House when it comes up for second reading, and we'll do this whole thing in principle.
Member for Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we in the Liberal caucus have made it quite clear that our position is one that does not support the question of rent controls as a means of trying to correct at times a situation that may not be the most desirable. However, Mr. Speaker, we do have a concern when we do run across instances of what I call blatant exploitation on the part of a landlord as far as the tenants are concerned. And I want to file in the House 3 documents. I have 90 copies. One is Hansard, page 1301 from a few nights back, that explains in more detail the situation I'm talking in terms of. The second piece of documentation is a letter signed by the property manager of the particular complex, which is in the riding of Whitemud, that is a rental notice increase of $675 a month. The third item, Mr. Speaker, is an ad advertising the same type of units for $595 a month that continued to run for a lengthy period of time after the tenants were given notices to increase. My question, Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister of Corporate and Consumer Affairs, can the Minister tell me if there is currently any avenue of protection that tenants that find themselves in such situations can utilize?
Mr. Speaker, we all are concerned with specific circumstances where individuals face an increase that doesn't seem fair or reasonable. I would say to the honourable member, however, that the control of that circumstance lies within the marketplace and, of course, within the amount of accommodation available so that individuals can make a choice to, in fact, not stay in a particular place but to move. I might indicate that in reviewing the last few months and what were some very rapid increases in rent from the January-February timeframe, we noted that those particular individual apartment complexes which increased the rent a very great amount, 30 or 40%, ended up with about a third vacancies, third of their whole complex vacant within a few-month period. That, I believe, is the ultimate control mechanism. To answer the question specifically, we have a Landlord and Tenant Act. It does try to establish fairness in operation of the contract between the landlord and the tenant. We're reviewing that act through the Residential Tenancies Committee and the recommendations that they put in place, and we're looking for input with respect to ways we can better ensure that fairness. But I would underline my first remark, and that is that the best control of a marketplace, the best safeguard for the residents that the member speaks of would be for them to be able to have a choice of accommodation and to therefore choose not to live in a place which unreasonably raised the rents if that's the case in this circumstance.
Mr. Speaker, when the Minister reviews my comments from the other night, he'll realize more fully that we're talking in terms of a two-tier system in that one particular complex. It's not just a question of a rental increase. It's a question of a two-tier system. To the Minister, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Corporate and Consumer Affairs, will the Minister give me his assurances that while the revisions are being considered for the Landlord and Tenant Advisory Act, the Landlord and Tenant Act, will he take these comments into consideration to see if there is a mechanism to incorporate protection to tenants in this type of situation?
Mr. Speaker, I can certainly undertake to take the member's concerns under consideration, and I will review the documents that he has just tabled. I would say that the task force, which consisted of tenants, landlords, and an independent chairperson, concluded that rent review, which seems to be what the member is now suggesting, though I realize in his opening remarks he said that wasn't the case, would in fact stop the market from evolving and therefore the kind of variety and accommodation to be limited that is required in circumstances such as the member mentions. But I'll be happy to review the remarks that he made and to look at those along with all others that we'll receive over the next couple of months in preparation for any changes that the House may wish to consider regarding the Landlord and Tenant Act or its sequel.
Now a member for Red Deer North.
Mr. Speaker, my question's to the Solicitor General. The recent announcement that hotels will be able to increase their off sales does give rise to some concerns. The whole matter of increased availability makes one question or wonder about the possible negative social effects that may follow. I wonder if the Minister does the Minister plan to set up any type of formal process to monitor any possible negative social effects, and if not, why not?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In response to the honourable member from Red Deer North's question, Our inspection department of the Alberta Liquor Control Board is on an ongoing monitoring at all times in respect to the operation of the over 6,000 liquor outlets that we have in the province of Alberta. And he may rest assured with his constituents and all Albertans that we will be watching very, very carefully the result of the impact of this policy change, just as we have on every policy change that has been implemented in the past.
And it's interesting, the reaction from the opposition. One day they're concerned about increased availability, the next day they're suggesting privatization and cheaper prices. Yeah. Before announcing this policy change, did the minister bother to do an assessment of the regulations in our neighboring provinces of British Columbia and Saskatchewan and possible negative effects they may have experienced?
Mr. Speaker, this policy change could have actually been introduced last year or recommended had it not been for the study that we have been doing throughout Western Canada, and as a matter of fact, all Canada. At this particular time, the province of Alberta is the only province from and including Ontario West to British Columbia that does not have off-sales of all liquors handled by all boards in the stores other than the Liquor Control Board stores of each and every province. In all provinces, Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia have off-sales conducted from non-liquor board stores.
Order, please. Before calling the orders of the day, the chair would like to thank honorable members for the general low level of noise in the chamber during question period today. But chair is also a little concerned that we did complete only 11 questions, leaving 6 or 7 people who would still like to get recognized. And the chair would suggest that the real reason for this is rather long introductions to the questions. Well, sometimes long introductions result in long answers. So if everybody could tighten up, but there are certainly some rather lengthy introductions. Before we call orders of the day, could we have unanimous consent to revert to introduction of special guests? Agreed? Opposed? Carried. Now a member for Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and members 65 grade 6 students from the Lloydminster constituency, and they attend the Kitscotty Elementary School, and they are accompanied by teachers Diana Dixon, Bob Gearhart, and Elgin Polwick, and they are seated in the members' gallery, and I would ask if they would rise and receive the traditional welcome of the Assembly.
The honourable member for Forest Lawn? No?
Sorry, no, the students aren't here, Mr. Speaker.
Orders of the day.
Government bills and orders for second reading. Bill number 24.